Howdy, Full Metal Cowboy, straight shooting a review of Revolutionary Girl Utena. This is an anime series that aired in 1997, directed by Kunihiko Ikuhara, who has had previous experience with the anime series Sailor Moon, and decided to leave the studio and make his own anime. Ever since Revolutionary Girl Utena finished airing, it has stood out as being a very unique anime title. And it definitely has a growing fan base ever since. So what is Revolutionary Girl Utena about? Well, here's the premise. This sounds like I'm spoiling Utena. I'm only going about how the series is established from the ground up. But I'm not going to delve into too much about Utena because this review is spoiler-free. So whatever I say about Utena is really how the show is set up. So here goes. Utena Tenjo's parents have died. Shortly after, a prince shows up to comfort Utena. And then, the prince gives Utena a ring with a symbol of a rose crest on it. This influenced Utena to one day become a prince herself. Years later, Utena begins to attend Otori Academy, and she meets a girl named Anthe. Anthe later gets assaulted by a member of the student council, and a duel ensues after that. And that's as far as I'm willing to go with the premise of Revolutionary Girl Utena. There is one thing I could praise about this so-called revolutionary anime that some people could call this, and that is the first episode is actually a good setup for the rest to follow. If only the series wasn't so damn repetitive. Revolutionary Girl Utena was animated by JC Staff, which I am not impressed with their body of work as an animation studio. And seeing as how JC Staff is responsible for Revolutionary Girl Utena, I'm not surprised with the amount of shortcuts this anime took. I think we can all agree that Revolutionary Girl Utena has fantastic animation sequences, especially during fights. Get used to it because you're going to see that a lot! And what I find fascinating about the animation of Revolutionary Girl Utena is not only do they recycle animation cells in many episodes, when Revolutionary Girl Utena goes into another arc, they use new animation, only to recycle certain animation cells again. And when it goes to the third arc, same thing happens there. And so on. And not only does the animation go through this cycle, so does the plot, for the most part. It just reuses the same formula in most episodes. We have Utena going through a normal day for the most part, and then something happens and Utena fights in a duel. You're going to see this a lot in Revolutionary Girl Utena. And very often in the last third of an episode, we hear the song Absolute Destiny Apocalypse, or Zettai Unmei Moku Shiroku. I guess I could talk about the soundtrack of Revolutionary Girl Utena. It actually does stick out pretty well with an anime from the 90s. I love the opening, and the first closing theme is actually stuck in my head. And the second closing theme actually has grown on me. But still, Absolute Destiny Apocalypse is that song that I cannot get out of my head. Now, as for the voice acting, I highly implore you to watch Revolutionary Girl Utena subtitled first. Do not watch the dub to get exposed to Revolutionary Girl Utena.
Grant me the power to bring the world revolution.
Yeah, Revolutionary Girl Utena was one of those 90s dubs that have not aged well. Although it does have Crispin Freeman, and he's actually one of the few good things about the dub, but I wouldn't call this one of his better performances in his career. And the company behind the dub of Revolutionary Girl Utena was Central Park Media, which I recall they did the first season of Slayers. I don't know about Slayers Try, Slayers Next, and so on, but I do know that the first season of Slayers was dubbed by Central Park Media, and I actually can listen to that dub just fine because the show wasn't really meant to be taken seriously, and the voice acting was just as fun as that show, even if it had a couple performances I didn't care for. While I find Revolutionary Girl Utena quite repetitive, There is one thing I did become fascinated with when I was watching Revolutionary Girl Utena, and that is its characters. This is the highest praise I can give towards Revolutionary Girl Utena because it actually did a good job at exploring characters for a good amount of time. And I found some of these characters quite interesting, especially given that Revolutionary Girl Utena tackles subject matters that some would find taboo. And the reason I find this fascinating in my experience is because we get to see these characters' point of view and what they're thinking in regards to these subject matters being addressed. One thing that is commonly said about Revolutionary Girl Utena is that it tackles gender norms. Although I would not call this revolutionary when it comes to anime because there was an anime from 1979 to 1980 that actually did something similar, but not in the way Utena does it, and that is The Rose of Versailles, with the main lead, Oscar. And the one thing people will bring up about Revolutionary Girl Utena, positively and negatively, is its symbolism, which, boy! The symbolism in Revolutionary Girl Utena made this anime quite the doozy. Now, some of the symbolism in Revolutionary Girl Utena can be picked up on, but then it will throw some other imagery that really boggles the mind. Oh, and those Shadow Theater girls, have fun paying attention to what they say. Now, while I was able to pick up on some of its imagery, some of its symbolism is just flat out ridiculous, especially in its third arc. And don't get me started with some of the symbolism in its film. Revolutionary Girl Utena is separated into 4 arcs. The first one is quite simple. The second arc is where this anime gets more confusing. The third arc is where the main antagonist becomes more prominent. And the last arc, well, is actually quite short compared to the rest. As I've already said before, when I was progressing through Revolutionary Girl Utena, I found this boring because of how repetitive it was getting. And yes, Revolutionary Girl Utena does change up some things only to be repetitive in their respective arcs. Clearly, there was a budget towards Revolutionary Girl Utena, and I could see that regarding the animation as a whole. But honestly, the only thing I found interesting are its characters. I really wasn't that invested with the plot because of how samey it felt. At least there's some satisfaction with its conclusion, even though I wasn't completely satisfied with it. And then there's the film that came after, which I'll talk about next. I'm going to be shooting a 6 out of 10 for Revolutionary Girl Utena. I often see Revolutionary Girl Utena compared to Neon Genesis Evangelion these days, and I can see why the comparison is made because both have symbolism, which is not completely made clear in both cases, but other than that, the two animes are completely different from one another. And if this disappointed anyone that was expecting me to praise Revolutionary Girl Utena up to the heavens, I don't know what to say. I really did not like this anime that much, so that's about it. So, I'll be reloading for my next review, so until then, I'll see you later. And yes, my next review is going to be Adolescence of Utena. Oh boy, that's going to be fun.
Oh yes, baby. You've lit the fire in my heart.